And hello, and welcome to Marvel Lookback, where we'll be taking a look, back at different Marvel movies. And today we're talking about, of course, the one that started them all with the MCU, Iron Man. I mean, last time I talked about Captain America, so I suppose it makes sense to talk about Iron Man next, right? I guess in a way this is kind of a classic with the MCU films, since this is, the oldest MCU film, all the way back to 2008. Wow. And it's pretty interesting to look back on this film after future films to see just a simpler time when Tony Stark was Tony Stark just becoming Iron Man. And it's also amazing how much this movie holds up as well, especially Iron Man in this movie. The look for Iron Man really holds up in this movie 11 years later. Jon Favreau definitely did do a good job with directing of this movie. It's interesting that he goes from Elf to this, though. Just think of that. And with characters speaking Tony Stark, I almost like to think that he kind of goes for a little bit of story arc in this movie, and the story arc kind of continues on in later movies, where he goes from selfish billionaire playboy to being a little bit more, over time, selfless hero. Of course, Robert Downey Jr. This is such a great performance of him as Iron Man and Tony Stark and this, and of course this is the one that started it all, and because of that I think most people can't imagine Tony Stark or Iron Man without Robert Downey Jr., am I right? Pepper Potts, one of the better MCU girlfriends next to Peggy Carter, and Gwyneth Paltrow, again, like with Robert Downey Jr., I think she does a really good job playing the character in this, and she is a real help to Tony, and you really get to establish their relationship. And you can really see in a way with this movie that she really does care for him as much as selfish as he can be sometimes. Obadiah Stane is not a bad villain. He's almost more like a sneaky, cunning, backstabbing villain, I think. And of course, then it sort of a little bit falls apart when he becomes Ironmonger. But even as Ironmonger, he's still kind of fun. Like he still has some of the same early Marvel villain problems, where like he becomes bad and has the evil Iron Man suit, but you don't really understand why. I guess it's because he was jealous of Tony's company or something, and so he decided to become Iron Margaret so he can get rid of Tony. Yeah, like I said, it's not quite clear, but he's still a decent villain. I do like him in most of the scenes.
And oh yeah, almost forgot about Terrence Howard as Rhodey instead of Don Cheadle. But yeah, Terrence Howard Rhodey, he was fine, but I'm probably more used to Don Cheadle. Though, just saying, if Rhodey's supposed to be a military man, he does seem more like that type of guy.
Next time, baby.
Oh yeah, and there's Yinsen, who, let's admit it, was the person who inspired Tony Stark to be Iron Man. Just give credit where credit's due. Funny enough, though, some of my favorite parts of the movie, though, are actually when Tony is just testing and experimenting around different stuff with the Iron Man tech. I don't know, I just find it fun to watch Tony do that stuff somehow. That's especially when you get some funny bits with the dummy robots and Jarvis, which, by the way, those two are hilarious as well. And him building his first official suit with Iron Man Mark II, because, okay, true, there's that one he made in the cave, but I more think of that one as a prototype, and then Mark II's actual first suit. But yeah, am I the one that actually finds that suit actually kind of dope? I don't know, I just find that suit a little bit underrated. It's just kind of cool looking, nice and silvery and shiny. I don't know, it's not like the best suit ever, but still. And then, of course, later when he's really suited up as Iron Man, he gets some of that awesome Iron Man action. And again, it's amazing how much Iron Man holds up in those scenes, too.
My turn.
And, of course, that kind of cave scene with the Mark 1 suit. I think I could say that's probably a classic MCU moment now. The only problems I have are, I feel like most of my favorite parts are in Act 2, Act 3, but I kind of feel like until he builds the Iron Man Mark 1 suit, most of Act 1 is kind of slow in my opinion. And of course, Tony Stark was Playboy philanthropist, so there is some of those, of course, awkward Playboy scenes I usually had to skip through, but yeah. And I also already mentioned the undeveloped villain with Obadiah, but that was kind of a common villain problem back then, and I still enjoy Obadiah as a villain. Oh yeah, and then just a little smarter little thing of, I still feel like they could have also explained arc reactors a little better, because I still don't exactly get arc reactors. Like they explain that it helps you stay alive. I was just thinking how exactly, so I don't know, maybe just me, but I don't know, I still don't exactly get how arc reactors, I guess. But yeah, definitely a good superhero movie, and it is great to see a story arc in Tony Stark where you really get to see him start as a selfish billionaire who just cares about making weapons, and then you really get to slowly see him turn into caring and even in later films selfless here. But yeah, always great to be able to follow characters and their different arcs. Yeah, definitely a great superhero origin story and a great start to the MCU. 7 to an 8 out of 10. Probably is more of an 8. Now for Lego side of it, Lego Iron Man. Of course, Lego did make Iron Man sets, but not for his first Iron Man movie. They made them later for Iron Man 3 and some Avengers films, including a Lego Malibu Mansion and a Hall of Armor, which I'll probably save those talks for later in case I do decide to talk about those later films. Oh yeah, there was also this. Apparently, Lego did make Marvel constructible figures, and most of them didn't really look that great, but this Iron Man one is probably the best of them. Anyways, if there were actual sets for this movie, here's some sets I would draft. Of course, I would have a set of the Cave, of course, with a Mark 1 suit, maybe a little bit more bulky look to it, and some terrace figures for him to fight, and a Yinsen minifigure. And since I mentioned me joining the scenes, of course, then I would have the next set would be like a Tony Stark Laboratory set. It would be a more medium-sized set, maybe in the style of a Hall of Armor or the Malibu Mansion. And it would be more of an interior playset. So of course you would have the lab with Tony Stark building the suit, and you know that would be the suit to come in the set would be the Mark II suit with hopefully a nice shiny chrome, and a buildable dummy with a fire extinguisher, and maybe throw in a Pepper Potts or a Rhodey. And then you're gonna have a big battle set. So lastly, I would have a Ironmonger versus Iron Man in set with Obadiah Stane inside a buildable Ironmonger armor and a Iron Man Mark III suit, and add in any other figure. And that's all the sets I have to draft for this one. But of course, if any of you guys have any other ideas, let me know in the comments down below. Oh yeah, and fun facts, with the 3 Iron Man suits that we got in the Hall of Armor set, we now actually have Iron Man suit from each movie Iron Man's featured in. There you go. Just thought that's kind of neat, thought I'd point that out. That's all for today, so what do you all think of the first Iron Man, the first MCU movie as well? Let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like, and be sure to subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. It's that red thing down below. You know what I'm talking about. But yeah, until I pick the next Marvel movie, see you next time. But let's just say I might have some ideas for a little sub-series. Anyways, laters.